Hello! So for everyone who has any broken pot and wants to use the time we have right now to repair it and make it useful again, here's a tutorial. We will only need one broken pot or cup or anything similar. This is in all other ways still perfectly useful. You could plant a flower in here or some herbs, or we can even use it to eat, but it has sharp edges and I want to cover them so nobody gets hurt. For this we only need a little bit of polymer clay. I have here Fimo polymer clay. We need to condition it first, and I'll do that off camera not to bore you. Now I've conditioned my ball of clay and I just roll it between my palms till I make a nice round ball. To make it really round, if you're new to polymer clay, your palms have to be slightly bended and you have to roll it on the circumference of this area. It makes it much easier than if your palms are just very sturdy or totally soft. Just try it, you will get a feel very easily. After your ball is nice and round, you start to pinch it at one side. I decided to make a heart because this little cup already has some design on it, and the heart would be appropriate to go in. When you start to pinch it, later on you take it between your palms and you start to roll it into a teardrop shape. It's very easy once you try. Try not to make this teardrop too pointy and too long. Make it so that it will go to the hole that you need. And as you can see, my hole is pretty wide, so I need a very, very wide heart to cover it. Now I will flatten this ball, this teardrop a bit, and I will try to make it so that it will fill this hole. Flatten a bit more. It's easier if you get to approximate shape before you make the cut for the top part of the heart. Because if you do that before, the two halves can spread too widely. And like this you have a little bit more control. Then you take credit card or something to cut anything would do, and you just, this is my old student card, and you just make a little indent. Now you try to shape the indent, you try to make this part nicely rounded too. You do that. And all the time try to see how are you on this part. As I can see, my heart is a little bit big, but I can make it smaller later on, much easier than to add new clay once it's already here. When you do this, try to make it so that the clay is on both sides. And if you intend to use this bowl later for eating, just make sure that the food will not touch the polymer clay. Polymer clay is not food safe, but you can use it on items that are used for food as long as it does not touch it. This tool is made from polymer clay, and it's just a log of polymer clay that I rolled to the tip at one side. So even if you have nothing, you can do this. You only need a bit of polymer clay. You could use other clays as well. It doesn't need to be polymer clay, but in case you use something like paper clay or air dry clay that are not waterproof, you will not be able to wash the dish. But it could be still used as a plant pot or something like that. Okay, as promised, I'll come back at the end to smooth it out. For this you can use cornstarch or talc powder. This is what I'll use, and I just put some on my fingers to smooth it out. It's really easy to remove your fingerprints and to make the surface much smoother. But of course you need to do this at the end, once your shape is already the way you want it. You just rub your finger over the surface and it comes to a nice smooth finish. Also, when you do this kind of projects, don't forget on the back side. When I was looking before, I was checking back side to see how it looks from the other side. If it was used as a plant pot, maybe it wouldn't be so important, as the soil would probably come up to here, but it's still a nice touch, and it's nice to be to have this habit of looking at the back side of things. It really gives them a nice finish, and it doesn't take that long to smooth out the back as well. So I will smooth this till the end and then show you the end result. If you're working on a glass surface, you need to be careful so that the back side doesn't extend over the front side, because it will show. So it's better to keep the front side bigger and the back side smaller. And put a nice soft finish over it. People often ask me, why do I repair such stuff, since you can go to the store and buy it. And now is the time that I can tell them, well, you can't do that now. but even before, it was sometimes a certain bowl is really favorite of a child, or it just means something to somebody, or sometimes it just seems wasteful to me to go and buy another thing and another thing if it's perfectly good for maybe for another use, but it's still useful. If I put this into the trash, we only have more trash, and if I plant some herbs in it, we'll have a nice pot with herbs. And the kids will remember to water it, since it will be nice. Once my finger polishing is complete, I can put this into the oven to the recommended temperature. It's different for different brands, so check it out. Also, it could be different in old or newer versions of the same brand, because they make different recipes, or sometimes the same brand could make different products that bake at different temperatures. So always check out the temperature. For this Fimo Soft, it's 130 degrees, that's 265 Fahrenheit, but it's old Fimo. So I think now it's, if you bought newer Fimo now, you would bake it at 110 degrees Celsius. Just check it out and bake it. It's better to bake it less at lower temperature and longer time than vice versa. So I think this is finished. I'm gonna put it into the oven and show you the final result. Now this is baked. I will gently remove it from the glass bowl, set that aside, and take some water and sanding paper. When you sand polymer clay, you need to have very fine grit sandpaper, and it's usually the best to have the kind with the wet kind of sandpaper that you need to put into the water in between the sanding. You just sand it from all angles until it's very, very nice and shiny. And when you're done with that, it would probably take longer. I did that beforehand already a bit. And when you're done with that, we can polish it. First, I just dried it with a towel. And now I will polish it. This is just some shoe polishing sponge. And I first try with the harder surface. And then, when I'm done, I turn it around and I polish it with this soft spongy thing. It's very similar to kitchen sponge, actually. You could also buff it with jeans or felt, craft felt or real wool felt. Just take care that you don't take some that is colored with some color that's not compatible with your product. It's best to take white felt or non-colored felt. Get into the grooves like this, into all kinds until it's really nicely polished and you can see that it shines. And when it's all dried, you can just take a bit of glue. For this I use just regular super glue. Put it into the groove, all parts. We can also help ourselves with a toothpick. To put the glue everywhere, and then we just reposition it back onto our bowl. Let it sit and you're done.